out, like which color was he, because he didn't list it in the PGM, and I figured out he was white. I don't have the ratings of both players, and I don't have the time control, so I have no idea what time control this was played under. I can't say. So anyway, we'll just treat it like at least a game 30, but you don't know. Could have been a correspondence game, but I kind of have a feeling it was a live game based on what happened. Okay, let's run through the moves. Okay, so we're in a Slav defense, and black decides to hang on to the pawn. Now, I don't know the line to this because I don't play this as white or black, but if you're going to play d4, you need to be prepared for this, and if you play the Slav, you might want to be prepared for it too. So this is where you go do a little work. Generally, I think it's early to grab that pawn. There are some positions where black can do this. White starts with the thematic a4 to undermine those pawns, and bishop d7. But I think here in the next move, white misses theoretically what he's supposed to do. You're supposed to now counter with b3 at some point, probably right now, either before or after taking on b5. The point is you want to bust those pawns open. With b3, well, let's just look at it. We'll see. Okay, black has basically no development. Okay, none. So his bishop on d7 is developed, but it's not going anywhere. What's black going to do? Okay, well, black could push b4 here, but that's fine. Let's let that happen. Okay. Now we got to find a square for the knight. Let's put it on a2. Now what do you want to do? b4 is now loose. Okay, so what's black going to do? He's spending a lot of time guarding pawns. Okay, now he can take this, and at some point maybe black will play a5, and he's making an awful lot of pawn moves to stay ahead of pawn. So maybe this is given in book. I don't know. Like I say, you'll have to look this up, because apparently in this line, black can try to hang on to the pawn. It's just a matter of how white deals with it. So, and I think b3 is the correct strategy. It's something I learned way back when I was a teenager. Okay, so what white does is instead takes on b5 first, and I guess he didn't like black having the option of playing b4, and really there's not much to worry about. I think the correct move is b3 here still, but white inexplicably plays b4. We'll come back to the main line in a moment. Let's just look at b3. Okay, my assumption is that white played it to keep black from pushing. Well, so what? Let him push. Now we have a new square for the knight. We don't have to go back to a2. We can go to a4. Okay, now if black takes this pawn, white takes with the queen, and well, we'll just look at it. We'll back up. If you take, you take with the queen. Now this pawn is loose on b4, so suppose black guards it, and in the process shuts in his bishop on d7. White should just develop and then muster up some counterplay against these pawns. White's got the a file and the b file to work on. Okay, should be fine for white, and all he has to do is win one of those pawns back, and he's got material equality, and the other one's a target. And black has two passed pawns, but the one on b4 may be too far advanced too soon. So strategically, it's a game. Could go either way. But at least, see, white's got open lines for his pieces. His pieces are coming out. And that's what you need. You have to have development. So let's back up and try the other line. Maybe he's afraid of this. Okay, protected advanced pawn. But, once again, white's doing fine here. He's got squares for his pieces. I wouldn't waste my time with knight c5, although it may not be a bad move. It's just not my first inclination, because then the idea of doing that is to be able to take the bishop off. But just develop. See, this pawn is protected, it's passed, but white should be okay. He's getting his men out out of the box. Okay, bishop c4, that's a good square for it. Eventually black's going to have to play e6. Let's just kind of follow up and we'll get an idea. Okay, whoop, want the knight out on f6. Pick up the right piece there, Mr. Rats. Okay, now we'll develop the queen. And develop the bishop. I mean, this is just a sample line. Nothing's forced. Why is it putting the bishop on c5? See that bishop on c5? It belongs here on f4. Let me just hover it over there. Sometimes this chess.com interface does that. It finds new interesting squares to put pieces on. But here it's wanting to put it on c5, so let me just hold it there. This is just a sample line. Black clearly is playing for the end game. If all the pieces come off, he's going to win the king and pawn ending. But that's a long way off. You can even put this bishop on e3. That's feasible. Activated on the g1 a7 diagonal. From this position, white's a tempo and a half ahead because he's got 4 minors out. Black has 3. They're both castled. White's queen is out. So white almost has full compensation for his pawn in terms of tempos, but he's also controlling the center. So let's say this game's about even, and a b4 will be a target at some point. White can maneuver around knight to e1 to d3 or c2 and figure out a way to go after the a pawn too. That's one of the ideas of having the bishop on e3. Anyway, let's back up. That's just one sample line. It's not forced. That's basically how to analyze. You try to see what can happen and go forward several moves. And the simplest way to see what moves to play is make developing moves. Don't try any fancy attacks because those will usually fall short. Just develop pieces, and it's easy to carry them forward. So anyway, white plays b4 here, and there it is. Okay, so what does black do? Black plays e6, the move he was going to play. Now he's got a counterattack on b4. Now the next several moves get to be kind of surprising. I really don't understand what's going on. Why some of these move selections were made. Okay, now the dark squared bishop has become a tall pawn. It's now defending the pawn on b4. So clearly black is winning the opening here, getting close to it. Now black needs to develop his pieces. His next move just flat out surprised me. a6. There's no need for that move. None whatsoever. Everything black owns almost is on the back rank. Time to develop something. Bishop e7, knight f6. You don't have to worry about an e5 push. The knight will have a new home on d5. But he plays a6. This gives white a chance to do something, and now white neglects his development and comes back here. Decided that wasn't so good after all. So one thing I like to demonstrate, let's just look at the position here after black played e6. Do you see the difference between here and here? Let's look at it again. Here and here, there's one difference, and that's that black pawn is on a6. Okay, so essentially what's white saying is, this is impossible, but it will illustrate the point perfect. Basically what's white saying is, tell you what, I'll give you 2 moves in a row as long as one of them is a6. And that's what's happened here. Okay? So by playing bishop a3 and a6 and coming back there, instead of being white's move in this position, black gets his 2 moves in a row. And one of them was a6. And that's in effect what's happened. So white is misfired. Now we have a pin we've got to deal with. And I don't think this was the best way to do it. Knight, because now the white squared bishop is shut in. Okay. Now black proceeds to make another strange move. H6. I mean, absolutely terrible. Sorry to call it that, but there are so many better moves available. Knight F6. Get ready to develop. Get the king castle. Knight C6. Even Knight E7 would have been better. Queen B6. Queen C7. Develop. Get your men out. If they're not in play, they're not going to do you any good. So what's he afraid of? The only piece White can put on G5 is a bishop. Well, so okay, play Knight F6. What's he afraid of? Bishop G5. Okay, what's he afraid of? Bishop G5. Black's up 2 pawns. If anything, now you can just come back with Bishop E7, and White has nothing to show at all for it. Nothing. Okay, so at least Black's getting closer to getting developed. But H6, my goodness, guys, don't make moves like that. What are you afraid of? There's nothing to be afraid of at all. Okay, so this gives White a chance. So what's he do? Here we go. Bishop A3. So it's almost like White's giving Black more free moves. But Black had just given White one with H6. So here I think Black misses another good move. Okay, there's a couple good moves here. One is Queen A5. It guards the bishop. It threatens bishop takes C3 check. And if bishop takes, you take with the queen. That's fine. It transposes into the other reasonable move I think is good for Black is Queen E7. See, both of those do one essential principle. They develop a piece. And I've said it in so many videos, I'll say it again. Always make exchanges that develop your pieces, not your opponent's. So, I mean, ideally this says if you take my bishop on E7, I'll develop my knight, but there's nothing making Black take it, or White take it. I guess maybe by playing bishop he plays bishop E7. Maybe by playing this, he's wanting to play B4. We'll come back to that in a moment. But but Queen E7 just develops the queen and gets ready for Knight F6 and castling. And against Queen A5, this bishop has no real useful discovery. If you come back here, that's fine. We'll just redeploy the queen to B6, and Black is doing well, and White has nothing to show for the pawn sacrifice. So let's back it up. So instead, Black plays bishop E7. Okay, now we go forward. Now White plays D5. Now I'm wondering, doesn't Black just win a piece with B4 here? What am I missing? Okay, what am I missing? If you stop and take this pawn first, okay, you can take with the pawn, but let's take with the bishop. Okay, now we take with the queen. We take with the king to keep the protector on B4, to keep the bishop on that. What does White have? He can castle with check. It's kind of fun to always castle with check, but we'll just park the king over here where he's safe. And I don't see that White has anything for his piece. What am I missing? I don't think I'm missing anything. So Black misses B4. White allowed it, and Black missed it. Okay, so Black took on D5. And it's White's turn. He takes with the queen, which has a tempo on the rook. So here, if Black knew the rule, don't make moves that develop your opponent's pieces, he wouldn't have made that move. Okay? Because that just developed the queen with tempo. Now, Black has a resource, but he's developed the queen. Okay. Now, White's got to get some development going, so he comes up with Knight D4. But now he's got to be careful. He could be cutting his own queen off here very, very shortly. As a matter of fact, I think it's shut off now. What's wrong with knight f6? Okay, direct threat on the queen. Well, no. White can take on c6, and we take here, and he takes there. Now, black is temporarily down a piece, so this knight is loose. Let's take this. Okay, now how are we going to handle this? Bishop takes. Why not? King takes. And this knight's in a little bit of trouble. Where's it going to go? It looks like it's got a way out of here. Okay, now it's planning to go to a5, but what's happened? Black's traded some wood off, and now those pawns look very menacing. He's ready to move his rook on h8 over to b8 or c8 and help support their advance. And that knight on a5 or b7 is just out of play. It's black's move. He's looking good here. Anyway, both sides are missing things, it seems. Okay, so knight f6 was a good move. Instead, black took here. This has some points to it. We'll see as we'll see. Now black finally develops the knight. And you shouldn't be offering exchanges when you're behind because it helps your opponent, but knight d5 just offers a trade. And white misfires again. Okay, black takes it. I guess there's nothing wrong with taking. Liquidate when you're material up. And white needs to retake that knight. Instead, white finds this move. And black looks and says, hey, I've got a good move here. Bishop f6. The bishop is twice defended. It secures the rook on h8. And it also attacks a rook on a1. So white retreats his queen. And black gobbles. Now black is up a rook. White has to retake this knight on d5. And now it should be just a matter of black being careful and picking up the point here. Okay, so queen a5 check. Now, and that was a good move. It's displaced the white king. Now look, the white bishop on f1 can't move. White's in a world of hurt. So castles queenside. And, you know, desperate measures are required in desperate times, so white comes up, goes attacks a rook. Black stops that threat. White sends his queen down. What else can he do? And here, black starts losing the thread of this game. White's got a threat on a6, but it's not all that important. That's the only thing white can do. What's wrong in this position with just simply starting to run this pawn, make white sweat? Okay, probably nothing wrong with it. Anyway, he doesn't. He checks here. Now the white king is really a target, and at this point, black proceeds to give away all of his advantage. I think with the king at that location, I'm sorry, with the king at this location, black should start looking at ways to make threats against it. Let's see. But he's got to be careful. A5 is, or A6 is hanging. So maybe driving the king out wasn't also good. Just keep the queen on the A file, because maybe it's going to have to go back to the A file. Okay, let's put it back on the A file. This threatens a discovered check. White has a check on C5, but then the king goes to B7. Let's look at it. Queen C5, king up to B7. Now maybe bishop d6, but threatening a queen c7. But black has so many good moves at his disposal. One of them is c3 check, followed by maybe c2, and white's going to run out of checks. It's just stuff to analyze. Anyway, let's back it up. As I said, black makes a mistake here. Oops, wrong one. After king f4 instead of queen a4, black plays rook takes Oops, wrong one. Black gives up some material. Rook takes e7. Okay. And he figures if queen takes rook, I'm still up a piece, and I still have all those wonderful pawns. But white finds a new move. Check. He says, I'll stay down a rook and a bishop. Now he gives another check. Now, was that a mistake? Maybe. Let's see. If king e8, then queen b8 check can be embarrassing. Matter of fact, I think white mates in two. The bishop has to take, so it's pretty much forced. Okay, now grab this with check. And what else are you going to do? Here comes this check. Excuse me. And queen b6 check. Let me just back up. I missed something. Okay, d6 check. At this point, the game is now a draw. Well, it was a draw. Black needs to play king b8 and allow a perpetual check. And white did offer a draw just before this, and black refused, but here black just throws the whole game away. White to play and do the best he can. Pause the video. Okay, did you resume? Well, queen b6 check is deadly. Clearly the king can't go to c8 because white has mate in 1, and if king to e8, that's the only other legal move. There comes this check, and you got to give up the bishop. And there it is, checkmate. Okay, so let's back it up and see where the game became a draw. And it looks like it became a draw with rook takes e7. Most likely, rook takes e7 did it. Black took his queen off the a file, so a6 fell. Let's back up just a little bit more. Okay, what are we going to do here? Everything's covered. How about if we just put this bishop here? That covers some critical squares in the black position, c5, b6, and a7. Preserve the idea of giving a check. Maybe that bishop can come in handy. This move seems to win. But just taking on e7 as he did, it seemed to lead to a draw. And white doesn't want the draw, or black doesn't want the draw. He declined it and played on. So here, busy repeating the position, offering a draw, and black doesn't want it, so he deviates. And that allows this check, and suddenly maybe king b8 has to be played. And maybe that's still a draw, but king d8 is horrible because it just allows white to win. So it's a fortunate break on white's part. There were more mistakes in the black position than the white position, although white certainly, at least early, white certainly had made more than his share. At least, you know, when it's okay to play a few mistakes. You're going to play mistakes. You want to get them out of the way as quickly as you can. Excuse me. I hardly ever yawn in videos, and here I am. It's like 12:30 in the afternoon. So maybe that's basically telling me I need to take a nap and pick this up soon. But, you know, chess, you can come back from the dead so often. And again, I don't know what time control this was. If this was standard, Black has a lot to be embarrassed about, but we don't even know who he is. If it was a blitz game, well, anything could have happened. But without being given the time control, I don't know what happened. But hopefully, I've been a help here. This opening can come up again, and if you play the Slav, you'll want to know it. If you play against the Slav, you'll want to know it. Okay. Thanks so much for your time. Take care. Be back soon with another.